Welcome back, everyone, to our panel discussion on IT-OT convergence, challenges and opportunities in integrating manufacturing and enterprise IT. The challenge in most manufacturing companies is that they have a lot of data sitting siloed in specific departments, probably in Excel spreadsheets. Now, this has changed with the advent of Industry 4.0. COVID has also forced companies to think differently. Let's hear from moderator S. Ram Prasad, president of Blue Conch Technologies, in discussion with global practitioners Yogesh Zope, chief digital officer of Kalyani Group, and R. Venkateshwaran, CIO of Persistent Systems, on the challenges and opportunities of IT-OT convergence.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Integrate conversation on the topic of IT and OT convergence, especially in the backdrop of a more sweeping digital transformation journeys and Industry 4.0 forays. Now, the challenge and opportunities when we talk about that in the context of integrating manufacturing and enterprise IT, it's important to first understand what these terms mean. Information technology and operational technology have long existed, but in separate spheres. Each one has its own network and objectives and requirement, and until very recently, have this separation has been just perfect. Operational technologies has traditionally siloed from IT, both literally and figuratively. If you go to the manufacturing shops and floors, you'll see pockets of technology work happening in the shop floors, very separated from the IT departments, which operate in a completely different realm. Now, operational assets typically operate disparately. Their time series data is unintegrated, lacking critical context from meaningful, uh, timely exploration of the data, analysis, and action. Now, individual machines and sensors collect their own data. This data is then stored in spreadsheets and just accessible to those few who really take a look at it. And most likely, the data that is collected in one system is not seen by the other system. So everything works in a lot of isolation. Now, having said that, with industrial Internet of Things or IT and OT convergence, as we call it, is changing the game and tearing down these old silos. Now, complex machines are now integrating with network sensors and being managed by advanced analytics software, blurring the line between where IT ends and where OT begins. When IT and OT join forces, organizations have an immense potential to unlock several benefits, from process automation and business intelligence to a very simplified system for ensuring regulatory compliance. At the same time, it should also be understood that it increases exposure to cyber threats, increased reliance on technology based systems, and of course, the old problem of skills availability. Now, the same thing let's take in the context of why it is more important today than ever before. Now, COVID-19 pandemic has exposed risks and revealed opportunities for improved cost efficiencies, greater resilience, and new revenue streams. Now, IT departments globally, the CIOs of the world, have been charged with delivering digital transformation across the board, not just in the traditional sense of technology, but in a broad uh, functional sense, right, from a business sense, and creating competitive advantage. At the same time, operational technologies has more or less exhausted more traditional measures to extract efficiency and productivity from its operation. So therefore, there is no single factor creating the tipping point between IT/OT convergence. Rather, there is a perfect storm of processes, market, organizational, and technological dynamics driving business critical convergence today. So today we are going to take a look more closely at IT/OT convergence and why it matters and what are the challenges it brings. But to know more and to delve into details, I have very two distinguished guests with me today. First, let me introduce Yogesh Zope. He's a Chief Digital Officer at Bharat Forge Limited and Kalyani Group, a practitioner of not only digital transformation but has made giant leaps in Industry 4.0 transformation. The other distinguished guest I have is R. Venkateshwaran, and in the course of the discussion, I will refer to him as Venki. He's a Chief Information Officer at Persistent Systems and brings deep experience and expertise in IT/OT implementation and is equally a global practitioner. So, gentlemen, thanks again for joining this panel discussion. And I'm going to begin with a very broad based question and hear your perspectives from both of you. So I'll start with you first. What's your opinion on the real benefits and challenges of IT/OT convergence as you've seen in the recent years?
As you very rightly said, OT and IT have existed in the manufacturing industry for very long, but they've always been disparate, right? The disparity is not just in terms of the physical connectivity or whatever, but more even in the mindset. So if you see, for example, OT is attributed to the direct cost in manufacturing. So if you look at a P&L of a manufacturing industry, OT cost would be attributed directly to the P&L, to the direct cost of the P&L, while IT cost would typically be in the SG&A because it's an enabler. So when you have diverse set of technologies or mindsets that are kind of have created this wall between these two technologies, it's very difficult to then say that what happens when you bring them together. And the bringing them together has become the need of the hour, as you very rightly said. The technologies have evolved. There is immense benefit from integrating them and bringing these two very powerful technologies together. The underlying benefits will far outweigh the risks that one foresees of getting them together. So now, what are these benefits going to look like? If you look at it at the broadest level, the highest 30,000 feet level, the benefits are going to be top line and bottom line, which are typical for any industry. It doesn't matter whether it is manufacturing or any other industry. Delving down deeper, where does this top line benefit come from? The top line benefit comes from being able to use these technologies to drive in a lot more efficiencies, improved uptime of your the machines, and so on and so forth, and of course improving the quality of the product. Where does the bottom line come in? The bottom line comes in by improving the efficiency of your operations, improving the using the data to come up with insights that help to reduce, for example, the machine downtime, or overall understanding the bottlenecks and being able to resolve those bottlenecks. So if you look at it, there is a top line benefit, there is a bottom line benefit, and if you combine these two, the benefits can be significant. Now, if it is such a no-brainer that there is definitely potential, why has this not happened? There is a basic set of things that need to be in place for the specific industry to take advantage of these technologies, and different organizations are at different stages of maturity. Thanks to COVID, some of these adoption of these technologies will get accelerated in the coming months, coming years. And there's still significant potential. I'll stop now, and as we I'll talk more about it as we go along in this conversation. I'll pause and let Yogesh probably take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Venki. Yogesh, your perspectives.
Yes. Venki, Ram, you have said the context very nicely, actually. But then I want to highlight one thing. Is myth about OT not getting connected to the core IT, because traditionally you may not have connected it directly to the systems, but then many times offset, if you are observing manufacturing industry, the experimentation for OT connecting to IT has already started without anyone understanding. Means even IT was not in loop that OT is now started getting connected to IT, and IT same for the OT. The challenge here is, if you see traditional OT systems, it is consist of lot of control systems or SCADA systems, and these are very rugged and I will say very bulky systems. Though those are rugged, those are bulky systems. There is no agility. If you want to change anything in MES, practically you have to boil down the ocean, and which is very difficult. And in today's world, if we are not on collaboration, or if we are not on the agility, there is no way we will be able to survive. And that's where this need for IT-OT integration started. Now, typically, if you see IT systems, which are those? Those typically we say as ERP systems, CRM systems, PLM systems, and in production, we are talking about actual execution of all the production, quality, maintenance, the planning side of it. So practically, if you see in today's world, means as you are referring to COVID situation, the demand flexibility or volatility how fast you are able to translate it to your production, how fast you are able to change your production line to cope up with this demand change. It is not possible without this convergence. Means while saying that whether benefit or not benefit, I am putting a point that no organization would able to survive going forward with the kind of pressures we have today, because business has changed totally. I think entire business models are changing significantly. It's while we say that OT and IT were not connected earlier, I personally feel there was no need during those times. But then the kind of volatility and variety, entire speed which has come to world, I don't think we'll be able to survive without that.
Excellent. Great. So from what I hear from both of you, it has become inevitable, or circumstances has made it inevitable today. If you need to survive, you need to look at better congruence. Having said that, I would like to take two different perspectives. One is a geographical perspective, other is a size perspective. So on the geographical perspective, I'd like to hear from Venki that if you look at the Indian manufacturing versus global manufacturing, is IT OT for everyone? So, can we just replicate what happens in the West?
Okay. Obviously, while the technology could be similar, it is obviously not going to be that, you can just forklift whatever we have, whatever systems are there in the Western world and just plunk it into an Indian context and hope to get the same kinds of benefits. It's obviously not going to happen. So there are multiple factors, right? One is the type of industry itself. See, India, if all said and done, is the way the manufacturing industry is set up is very different from the way it is outside India. First of all, it's a very, very labor-intensive market. It is capex intensive, very thin margins. The kind of people who are hired in this industry are most of the time they are unskilled or even semi-skilled. They're just given a week or 2 weeks of training to do their specific job well. So if you look at that kind of a market and in a very cost sensitive, price sensitive, margin thin kind of a setup, now you want to adopt technology. While technology will have long-term benefits, in the short term, it is going to have a significant impact on the top line and the bottom line. Right? So if that's going to be the case, and it is going to have some level of displacement of the workforce and so on, which typically is not a very palatable situation to be in. Having said that, how do we then address it? Does it mean that adoption of technology will lead to complete workforce retrenchment? No, it is not the case. It will create jobs, but the jobs that would be created are going to be different kinds of jobs. Will the same workforce be able to take up those jobs? That will require a lot of upskilling, skill management, ensuring that people who are getting displaced are able to take up those jobs. You require a lot of planning to make that happen. So this is the Indian scenario. Outside India, obviously, things are a lot more different. These are very mechanized industries. The labor force is typically sparse. There's a lot of automation already in place. So if you are able to then use these, IT, OT, or even Industry 4.0 kind of adoption, it becomes easier for those industries to start seeing the benefit in a much shorter turnaround time. So the context in geography is definitely very different. Having said that, does it mean that there is no role for technology or Industry 4.0 in the Indian context? Absolutely no. There is enough and more scope. It's a question of what the priorities are, how one wants to plan this thing, and how does one go about in the overall adoption life cycle. Yes, prior to the pandemic, there was a luxury of time. At least there was a false luxury, a false sense of time that you had. Okay, I don't need to do it today. I can probably procrastinate and push it to the next quarter or the next year and so on. Unfortunately, that is no longer a luxury. As Yogesh said, it has now become a mandatory thing. There is no way organizations can survive if they don't adopt this technology in whatever form they can, right? And that's where, so it's a good beginning for most organizations. For some, they're already on the journey. It's obviously going to accelerate their adoption, and they will probably reach the their overall objective much faster. But there is no stopping of this cycle right now in the Indian context.
Very nice. Thanks, Venki. So, going back to Yogesh, your comments earlier and what Venki just described. If you take the Indian industrial context, now I'll break it into two segments. The large enterprises, manufacturing enterprises with means, and the smaller MSMEs. Now, like you said earlier, there are a lot of legacy systems in play here, and production is something that is sacrosanct. You can't stop production. You don't want to fix something that's not broken, right? Let me put it that way. And given the fact that it is capital intensive, the systems are legacy. You want productivity continuity there. So would it be any easier for MSMEs to look at IIoT and start adapting into it, or is it just for the big boys?
Yes. Ram, again, very valid question. See, problem is that the challenges for MSMEs and the large organizations are totally different. So naturally, solutions are altogether different. The concept when we talk about ITOT or convergence or Industry 4.0, it is end of the day, it is what you are looking from it. That's what matters first thing. What are your business challenges? So typically in large organization, as I was telling you, the speed to the market or even as Venki rightly pointed out, the margins are very thin, how to protect your margin. So end of the day, how you are sweating your assets more and getting more productivity out of it. And quality again is a big time issue for all large organizations. So how to have first time right and reduce the cost of quality. When it comes to the SME sector, you are absolutely right that it is highly capital intensive businesses, even for biggies. And if you give example of Bharat Forge, I always say that we are like plant of, or I'll say museum of machines. Practically it's a 60-year-old plant, so naturally you would see the machine which are very old, maybe Industry 2.0, to the latest plant which are highly extremely automated, which are operating with hardly 3% or 4%. So it's a variety of machines which results into variety of processes. And since it's all organization, it's variety of people also. Means it's a museum of people, process and technology. That's why I always say. So bringing all together becomes very complex sometimes. For SMEs, actually, it becomes very simple because they have to focus on, I say, machines particularly, than integrating everything sometime. So now when we talk about machines, what do we look? We typically in manufacturing context, if you ask me, we look for OE. OE consists of availability, performance and quality. So naturally availability, whatever you can ensure, reduce unplanned downtime, that will help you to sweat your assets more. Same thing for performance. If you are running machine at optimum cycle time and eliminating the stoppages in between, the performance of machine would be very good. And for quality, ensuring that all parameters which you have in your manufacturing quality plan, you adhere to that and digitally control that, then your chances of getting first time right product is very high. So when this goes to large companies, the entire plant gets involved into OE cycle. But then for many SMEs, they are operating on individual machines, like maybe a cluster of 4 CNC machines which operate independently. So if you are able to sensorize this machine, now again, coming back to legacy aspect of it, because most of the time someone has procured the machine, that vendor doesn't exist anymore. So it could be machine as old as 25 years or 30 years old. So how do you sensorize it? So the aspect could be you many times you don't need to sensorize at core. Maybe non-intrusive sensors you can put and purely on the basis of information from vibration, temperature, acoustic, you should able to get lot of information. And then how do you correlate this information? So in typically we say that the machine operator understand his machine any better than IT person, because IT person will able to interpret that data. But once he has the data, but then how to actually interpret that data from the machine context, that only operator or the engineer on the shop floor will be able to tell you. And that's where IT OT convergence comes. If we just want to connect the machine without understanding it, it's impossible. And for SMEs especially, it becomes more and more challenge. Typically, when you approach IT companies to solve these problems, many times they are not aware of manufacturing, and it becomes means these solutions which came are very theoretical solutions. Because nowadays it's crazy that everything can be solved by AI, and there are ready-made AI algorithms available. You just push the time series data or any series data, and then it will show you the anomaly. But then, what is that anomaly? It becomes very difficult, and the anomaly part may be difficult, but the simple solution like condition monitoring could be no brainer. Means like we have when we started our project, the simple vibration sensor on forging press could tell that something is wrong, and then the person stopped the press at 2 a.m. in the morning, and then he realized that one of the bolt of the press was broken, and then he replaced that bolt. Had he not done that, maybe within next 40 minutes another 3 bolt would have come down, and that press would have done for another 2 days or maybe 3 shifts or 4 shifts. So putting simple sensor and applying logical mind, I will say applying common sense, can give lot of leverage to the even SMEs. Only thing you need to know, you need to understand your downtime, you need to understand your quality, and then you need to have right kind of sensorization, and that should solve the problem. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent. Great. That great response, both of you. So just to summarize what I understood, that it is IIoT or ITOT convergence or reaping the benefits of Industry 4.0 doesn't have to be very esoteric and complex. Like what both of you explained, once we understand the business prerogatives, the efficiencies we want to bring into the systems, and take the problem piece by piece and looking at simple solutions and not get overwhelmed, both from a technology standpoint as well as from a cost standpoint, I think we can move in the right direction and bring a lot of systemization and digitalization and to solve problems. Having said that, it still takes people to go and address these problems, right? So having worked, with you, Yogesh, in the context of Bharat Forge, and what Venki also mentioned earlier, some look at it from an OPEX standpoint, some of them look at it from a production standpoint. What about the mindset of engineers who deal with it? You have skill capabilities on the IT side, you require skill capabilities on the OT side. Do you see the meeting of the mind? And if not, how do we approach it?
Venki, you want to take it or I should take it?
Why don't you start? I will.
Yeah. Ram, in Bharat Forge we always say that mindset is the most critical when this kind of deployment comes. When technology comes next, because if you have legacy of people, and as you know, traditionally in manufacturing environment, engineers are there for maybe 20 years, 25 years, and they have learned some engineering way back, and it becomes more a operational job, more a mechanical job. I mean, just like coding, after certain day, if you ask a programmer, he keeps the coding mechanically. Same thing happens in manufacturing, that they keep doing this job mechanically. So the approach we took is we decided that our at least initial 75% efforts will go to change the mindset. So how do you change the mindset? The mindset can be changed, one, with the constant and consistent communication from the leadership team over the years without changing the message, and without increasing the complexity in understanding, because you can make these things as complex as it can and you can explain it in as simple as you can. That is first thing. Second thing is the reskilling or upskilling of task force. There also we took enormous efforts. We established 4 industrial IoT labs where all the engineers, means I'll say 2,500 engineers, it is mandatory to go through these upskilling programs. In upskilling program, actually we tell them, we start with all the advancements in hydraulic, pneumatic, mechatronics. Forget about the IT part of it initially. So where is world going in hydraulic and how we can leverage on that? And then we come to sensorization part of it. Okay, what kind of sensors you can use in hydraulics, pneumatics? And then third thing is, how do you interpret this information? May it reaches to the level that the shop floor engineer has to build one dashboard using the information coming from the machine. Intention is not to make the person expert in IT technologies. Intention is the person, when he goes back to his shop floor, he should look to his machine differently, and then he should come up with all the possibilities. He need not do anything. He can approach to the core team and then they can jointly, IT OT jointly can solve these issues. And all the next important factor is removing the fear of technology from the mind, because as you rightly said, Ram, it becomes overwhelming sometimes with all the jargons we create. It becomes very difficult to shop floor person to understand. So in Bharat Forge, we have made a very simple definitions, at least fit for our purpose. For Industry 4.0, we say this as eliminating the media break. Media break is communication gap between man to man, man to machine, machine to man, and finally machine to machine, which is the highest level of cyber physical. And on this definition, everyone can contribute in some or other way. So while we are talking about very large change in the organization, we many times we forget about the small changes which can bring very larger impact in the organization, and that's where we are focusing. So Ram, you are aware of typical Kaizen in manufacturing. So a lot of push for digital Kaizen. How to use digital interventions, and that gives these people confidence. Yeah, we have been doing this for all these donkeys years. So now what is this we have to just add some sensor and say it as a Industry 4.0. For that matter, it's common sense. Of course, these are the building blocks. Going forward, Industry 4.0 in real sense is complex. Of course, when we start talking about cyber physical, machine talking to machine, machine controlling machines, that becomes a very complex part. But then I think there is still a long way to go for that.
Excellent. Yogesh, great points there. And you know, being so close to the problem, you are intimately aware of how this works, what does not work, the mindset of people. But if I put myself in Venki's shoes, and we both come from a very similar background, sometimes we may be preaching to the choir, telling you what you should do, without really understanding intimately the challenges that you face. So from a case study, from a best practice standpoint, Venki, can you give a couple of or an example of, as a integrator, as a solution provider to the enterprises, any one good practice that we bring about and the challenges you typically face?
Sure. So I think Yogesh alluded to the point that, as technology providers, we are guilty that we come in acting as the know-it-all guys without really understanding the pain point on the shop floor. So the first thing as a technology provider that, again, we also did was we made sure that we first understood the problem from the ground level. So we spent time, met, I personally met, when I was running the practice, I personally met more than 70 to 80 manufacturing companies, people playing different roles in the organizations, in their respective organizations, to understand, what are the pain points. See, unless you can sympathize and empathize with your the users of your systems, whatever technology you're going to provide, you will really not be successful. See, technology can, I mean, at least coming from a technology world, we believe that technology can solve everything, right? We are the the gods that can do everything, right? But if it doesn't solve a problem, having 100 features out of which 99 is not useful, it's just a waste of time, right? So we first did that very effectively. So if as a technology provider, that is something that as a best practice I would definitely advocate. The second thing is what Yogesh was alluding to. Do we really need to understand every nuance of the business? No, we need to take the the users along with us, because we can provide the technology, but the users are the ones who can really understand the benefit. If I'm providing data, how to interpret that data. Yes, there are tools available that can draw these correlation charts, but what does it mean in a physical context, in the context of their specific business, is something only the subject matter expert or the person on the shop floor knows. So let me give you an example. So we were working with an aluminum foil manufacturer, and their challenge was that they were going through this whole process. The whole process of manufacturing aluminum foil was take about 3-4 hours, and they would manufacture these huge bundles of aluminum foil. And somewhere along the line, based on the raw material, based on the roller speed, based on the temperature, whatever it is, there could be multiple factors that could affect the quality of the aluminum foil. The aluminum foil would break, and if an aluminum foil breaks in between, that entire bundle is kind of goes into waste. Of course, some part of recycling can happen, but by and large, it is waste. So they posed this challenge that help us understand why there is this breakage, right? And we took it as of course, coming from the technology industry, we said, okay, let's try to apply technology. So we looked at all the input parameters, did all these correlations, all the analysis, and so on. Finally, we were able to pinpoint to 2 or 3 factors that were really contributing to the breakage of the aluminum foil. So one was the percentage of zinc in the input, the raw material, right? If the percentage of zinc is more than 2.5%, then it was leading to a higher breakage of the final product. Once we so as a technologist, I can just say, what, column A, which is zinc percentage, is correlated to your final output, right? As a technology, I just say this. But when we presented this saying that it is zinc percentage, immediately the light bulbs went off in their minds. Oh yeah, zinc percent, obviously, it was a fairly obvious solution, but they couldn't see it because there was no way for them to process this high volume of data and arrive at this correlation. So we indicated this to them, and then immediately they were able to figure out why it was happening, and then they put checks and balances to make sure that see, once you tell them what is the root cause, finding the fix is fairly straightforward, right? They will just say, okay, now before I really push on my the raw material, I'll just make sure that the zinc percentage is within controllable limits, right? Once that is done, then the rest of the things follow. Similarly, we had identified roller speeds and other 2 or 3 parameters which are contributing, and by able to they were able to then put in the checks and balances in place, and the overall breakage dropped down significantly. They were able to bring down the poor quality aluminum foil by 50%. Okay, so that is the power of technology plus data and working with the team on the ground, rather than working in an ivory tower somewhere. Okay? This is just one example, and we have lots more of those. Yeah. But we can spend more time talking about the value of data. But I'll let Yogesh probably talk something. I'm sure he has many in his arena as well.
Yeah, I know I'm also going to be conscious of time. But then what is so encouraging, Venki, with what you said is that service providers do bring value, especially even in a very technical context, because you're staying away from the problem, so you're not too close to the problem too, right? So that's really encouraging, and I'm sure enterprises are going to look at the broader ecosystem to reap the benefits. So just concluding, just a couple of more questions. One for you, Yogesh. IT was always exposed to the internet, right? Data and then the cybersecurity risk that came with it. And given the fact that the rest of the systems, especially in the production side of the world, were legacy and highly protected, didn't have this exposure. Now with industrial IoT, how do you see that change, and what specific guidelines can you advise at this point in time?
Ram, to be honest, this is one of the most complex issue at this point of time. if you ask me, this is one thing which actually scares me most. And I think that's the story with whosoever is running Industry 4.0 as a project. Problem is that while we are talking about all these things, there is no standardization, or maybe standardization is not possible because of capital nature of the business. You can't just replace the machines, you can't just replace the controllers, and the legacy actually stays with the, because as you said earlier, if something is not broken, why to fix it? So that fundamental still remains the same. Challenge is that on shop floor, Miss, and this is not case with India. Trust me, Miss. I've been talking to all the global organization. Everyone has this problem of having the legacy machines, including Windows 7, Windows XP. There are Windows 2000 machine also running on the shop floor, and it is just impossible to replace that single machine because it has to replace entire production machine. Having said that, there are simple ways sometimes that people try to do is keeping everything in isolation and then connecting at a gateway level, or having data at a edge level and then ensuring that edge is not connected to the internet, because this more comes from internet. As long as you are protecting the boundaries up to one level, it is possible. But then I will say up to one level, because there are many incidences of that has happened, that despite of having this segregation of networks, the attacks were possible, because most of the time you do logical isolation, not physical isolation. Many times physical isolation is not possible because somewhere you need to converge between IT and OT, and that's where challenge starts. Now, the risk, of course, is as high as if you are tracking the news 2 days back for the Iranian this nuclear plant attack, which Israel claimed. So it is very this cyber terrorism, production sabotage is a very common phenomena. And going forward, I am sure that, as everyone says, that next world war will be on the basis of cyber attacks only. So in all probability, attacking these kind of systems, means especially the legacy OT systems, would be comparatively simple than attacking on the traditional IT systems, which are more secure or which are moving towards little maturity. There, many times we see that manufacturing companies, especially when there is no talk between IT and OT, sometimes it happens that some vendor comes and then he claims that, okay, I will show your dashboard on mobile, and immediately shop floor people give all the accesses and somehow they connect, and one fine day the OT shop floor boss comes and tells IT, "Dekh, maine ye kar liya," and you guys are nowhere. Challenge is that no one understands the implication of it, and going forward, I think this is going to be very crucial. All industrial bodies are moving towards standardization, and then all security companies, if you talk to any security company today, most of them are coming up with some or other solution on OT security, which was not the case, I will say, even 2 years back. So you talk to any vendor, they now have some or other products, and good thing is there are very good startups which are working in this domain too, which are coming with unique solution to protect the data at edge level. I always say that the connectivity is good. More the connectivity, there is going to be more risk, and many times you need to be seriously consider all the possibilities of cyber threats before connecting the machine, because maybe you are seeing benefits today, but then the risk it can bring tomorrow could be very high, and especially for large machines. Small machine it's fine, but then for large machine it could be scary. Because Ram, just to give you context, I mean, in between we did the penetration testing exercise for machine. And the young hacker, of course, he was one of the brilliant hackers in India. He could practically crack this machine within 24 hours and he could reach to the PLCs of the machine. Just imagine if someone hacks forging press and change the speed of the machines, the damage it could bring is enormous actually.
Yeah, yeah. Fair enough, Yogesh. They're good perspectives. So, gentlemen, I think we are on time. Just going to do a quick conclusion. So, from what I hear from both of you is that uh, IIoT and ITOT convergence is inevitable. It is here. It's going to stay. It's going to bring a lot of synergies. At the same time, there are going to be challenges, whether it is data security, and but then, as we have seen with IT in the past, with every problem there are solutions and there are opportunities. So I'm sure there'll be more innovation in that area too, to ensure data protection and make sure that all risks are mitigated. But the opportunity is immense, and glad you both could share your perspectives how both large enterprises as well as medium small enterprises can look at these opportunities and have a method to approaching it rather than getting overwhelmed with the opportunities ahead. I'm going to open this up to Q&A. And once again, thank you, Venki and Yogesh, for taking the time out and joining us for this conversation. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Ram. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much to Yogesh, Ram, and Venki. So clearly, COVID has brought the black swan realization, and we've managed to move on seamlessly to this new world with many parts of Industry 4.0. So perhaps it's time for IT and OT convergence to happen in the same way. The thing to remember is there's no going back. People have to take the plunge if they haven't. You've got to get on the bandwagon. Whether you're a large or a small company, you need to be part of the IT OT transformation. Get your staff on board and create a culture of embracing change. Okay, I'd like to welcome Yogesh, Ram and Venki to the screen just to do a very quick thank you. And I'm going to ask you one question. And I'd really appreciate it if you can keep your answer to like literally 10, 15, 20 seconds. What is the first step that enterprises need to take on their journey to IT/OT convergence? Ram, let's start with you.
I would say that first is enabling the teams to embrace change would be the first step in the direction.
So keep them motivated and not fearful about embracing that change. Okay,
Absolutely.
Great. Venki?
From a technology standpoint, I would say at least start looking at the data, start collecting the data, however small or big, start the data collection. And then, over a period of time, it will become something meaningful.
Okay, so start with the data collection. Okay, brilliant. And Yogesh?
Know why you are doing this. This is most important because what you are connecting, why you are changing, that's what you should know. First, know your why you are doing this.
Okay, brilliant. So know why, start collecting the data and get your staff to embrace. Thank you so much. We are going to offer you a virtual certificate and let you know that we will be planting a tree in your honor to say thank you for being part of Integrate 2021. Really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. Everyone, we will be taking a short break, and after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to have Jani Zhang from Persistent Systems, who's going to be talking about automating Industry 4.0 and maximizing production with the power of data. So it fits on seamlessly from what Venki said. So thank you, everyone, and see you after the break. Don't forget to answer the poll questions, get a photo taken, visit the exhibitors, and see you back shortly. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.